Well, about $1.2 trillion of CRE debt maturing in the next 2 years. Does that sound right to you? And what sort of delinquency and default rates does that bring with it?
There is absolutely a wall of maturities that is coming across commercial real estate. I think the thing to really watch here is across what's happening in some of the smaller and regional banks, right? Over the last few years, their exposure to commercial real estate has really increased, and they were lending more and more on commercial real estate as interest rates were near zero and valuations were really high, right? So as we start to see some of that unwinding, I think that's going to be something to watch. That being said, like I mentioned, right, a lot of lenders have been kind of kicking the can down the road, especially as it relates to office assets. I mean, these banks do not want those assets on their balance sheet. So they are working with their borrowers to figure out how to continue to kick the can down the road, right? But at some point that does have to end.
Are we looking there for at contagion through the global banking system and the regional banks in the US, or is it going to be relatively contained? Because we've been hearing that it may not necessarily be a short, sharp shock, but more a long period of a painful readjustment.
You know, I wish I had the crystal ball to be able to specifically answer that question, but I do think it's going to be a little bit of a long slug ahead, right? A lot of these loans, as they start to come due, you're going to see them be enacted slowly and surely, especially even across the office space, right? You have long-term leases. So as you have some of this long-term debt come due, as you have some of these long-term leases that are expiring, you're very slowly going to start churning through this. I mean, this is not really an issue for the large banks, right? They're very well capitalized, and their real estate exposure is fairly limited in comparison to the rest of their book. But for some of the smaller, more regional banks, you will start to see a few more hiccups that will come through. Whether or not it's a contagion, I'll err to say probably not, yeah. Right? But we're probably going to see some of this slow grind over the next couple of years.
All right.